Hey guys, it's Penelope in London. We're looking at the chart of right now, and we can see the moon. I'm going to refresh this, and we can see the moon is now here. We can see it's 5 degrees. Let me take that away. It's 5 degrees of Aries, which is very fiery. I'll give you a bit of the archetype of Aries in a moment, and it's going to hit Chiron. So Chiron is our wound, and what this basically means is that the blend of that together, the moon is our instinctive awareness, and it's, just our instinct and our emotions. And Chiron is the wounded healer. And Chiron's wound is from basically our early imprints or implicit memory, and also from the collective unconscious, I would say. It's part of Carl Jung's work. And what we're looking for is healing and acknowledgement. And it's also where we have concealed trauma. So a lot of us have been going through life and hiding our traumas out of shame and our addictions and our traumas and our pain of not feeling good enough or not being good enough. And not that we're not good enough, but that feeling and the inner critic. And also the moon is the womb and such like, and the womb, the moon is the breast, the womb, it's earth. It's the archetype that covers many things. It's what's below the surface. With Aries, we have here, you can see this is in the sign of Aries. If we look at the Aries, we've got war, we've got separation. You think you're born, so when we come out of the womb, there's separation, and there's anxiety of separation as well, which we probably experience very early on. We've got anger and rage, and we experience that very early on as well. Although we may not understand those emotions, we definitely experience that. We have desires. We also have here, let's see, we have the loner, and we have primal, where it's very primal. It's also our initiative and initiation. If you think of a baby like beginning to walk, we also have self-interest and narcissism. The first 2 years of life are to do with, narcissism. Narcissism is not a bad thing in the first few years of life. It's all about us. Narcissism, what does it mean? It's a self-interest. It's about ourselves, but it's natural when we're first born. And we have warrior, but we grow out of it. That's the other thing I add. We have pioneer. We have the destroyer. We have paranoia with this Aries. We have impulsiveness. It is to do with Mars as well. If we think about that, it's our identity. It's where we want independence and freedom. It's also impatience and anger at limitations and intolerance for weakness and instinct. So when we look at this and then we take the moon into account and we take Chiron into account, we can sort of see what's playing out here. Chiron's here for quite a few more years. I think it's to the end of I think it changes sign in 2027. We can have a look at that on Solar Fire in a moment. The other thing, what I'm going to point out is that when this hits, when we look on Solar Fire, we'll see the exact time. We've got it's squaring to Mars. So you can see that there is a square. So this Mars is actually moving into square, and the moon is also, when it hits there, it's going to be square. So the Mars energy in Cancer, we might feel a lot of frustration, and be very sort of with again, the moon rules the sign of Cancer, and the moon and Aries is also to do with Mars. So that energy can feel quite troublesome maybe for a little while and through the next few hours. But with this, we're able to tune into our deeper issues because of the moon. And it's where where we might react, where we've be triggered, because where we suffered trauma, we may feel very triggered. But also what the interesting thing that happens, that when we begin to look at our shadow and our wounding, we can then eventually see that, as we begin to accept and understand. So not so much acceptance, because I don't want to, it's so easily said in trauma that you just have to accept it happened. That's a path. It doesn't happen through just us deciding. Sometimes it might, but it's really rare. It's that we have to work it through. There are layers and layers of wounding, which is also collective, and particularly with what's going on at this time. We know that a lot of us are struggling, and a lot of us are being shut down and restricted, And within that, we've got this sense of that we can't really say what we want to say. We might find our friends, a cruise of people that we can do that with, but there's a lot of division at this time as well. We have a new moon coming up in a few days in Taurus. You'll see when the moon moves into 17 degrees, we're going to have a new moon. And we've also got that moon, it's in a weak conjunction with the full moon will be in a weak conjunction with Uranus, but that moon is going to move onto Chiron, and then it will move onto moon Uranus, and then it will be a new moon, it will be on the sun, and then the moon as it moves through the cycles of time. So we have some nice trines up here. Let me just get my list of these aspects so I can read them in order, an orderly fashion for you. What I'm going to do actually is go over, if you want to go over to my solar file, but if you want to get your own free chart and you have your time of birth, you can get it here. This is a brilliant site. You can see all of the aspects here as well. And then where your details are, where the sun is, where the moon is, where Mercury is right now in Gemini, and where Venus is. Venus is just going to be leaving Taurus, and it's going to then move into the sign of Gemini as well. So hang on a minute. No, am I got that right? Venus is currently, it's 28 degrees Taurus. It's going to be moving into Gemini. So Venus in Gemini is quite flirty. That's quite good. Maybe there'll be a lot of flirting or misunderstanding with flirting, that's for sure. So let's move over here and we'll look at solar fire. So I'm going to go new share, and this is my emanated page. So you can see here. So what we've got is that you can see that moon is 5 degrees, and let's take it forward by hours and see when that moon is going to hit Chiron exactly. So it's 5 degrees, 6, 7 degrees, 8, watch the moon, 9, 10, and we have 11, 11. And then what's that going to be doing? It's going to be squaring down here, Mars of 9 degrees. So what does Mars do when Chiron hits it? So Mars squaring Chiron is where, so Mars is, our libido, it's our drive. And Chiron, again, we know is the wounded healer. And again, it's about the concealed traumas. And with Mars here, we take in action, an action arises that will uncover hidden issues that have long been, hidden from us. So we might experience that, because ultimately what astrology is, if you are aware or not, astrology is a bunch of symbols and timings and mathematical calculations. And the question is, whenever we're looking at an astrology chart, is what are we feeling? Because then Simon Forster taught me this. Then we know, Simon Forster of Raising Vibrations taught me. Then basically we know what the chart is telling us. So although with this Chiron, Moon, Mars involved, there can be difficulties, with our patterns of behavior. But the whole point of Mars working with Pluto is to make us unconscious. And as Jung, Carl Gustav Jung said, ultimately we're making the unconscious conscious. And this leads us to ultimately to acceptance and deep healing. And this is what we're all doing right now. We're looking at our wounding, and this is going to go on for a couple of years because we're all at different levels of understanding. So if we can see that the sun is square Saturn, if we take the sun and we got Saturn up here, it's moving off. And then we've got the sun is in a weak conjunction with Uranus, it's moving off. And the sun is trine Pluto at the moment. So if you look at Pluto up here and the trine, it's moving on into a trine. And the moon moves really quickly, but it's sextile to Mercury and sextile to Venus. So if you look at the moon, it's not just doing this to Mars, it's sextiling. We've got down here, and let's see, Venus square Jupiter, and we've got Venus trine Pluto. So then we've got Venus is also trine Pluto, and that's in orb, which is quite nice. And then we've got Mars sextile Uranus. I don't know what I said about Venus there, but forgive me if I've made an error, which I might have done. The North Node is conjunct Mercury. So you've got the node and moving into the Mercury is applying to, they're going to hit each other, basically. They're going to speak loudly to us. And then Lilith is the shadow, and Lilith is conjunct the sun. So you can see Lilith here is, you know, in a week, the sun is moving off. And we've also got Chiron is conjunct the moon, Chiron square Mars, and Chiron sextile to Saturn. So that's helpful with that Chiron sextile to Saturn as well. Let's have a quick look at this. So the Chiron Saturn sextile Saturn with Chiron is where we have restriction with Saturn and with our structure as well. And then Chiron we know, and with Saturn, it's in a flowing aspect to Chiron. So this is where general authority, the wound, come up for consideration and healing. So it's also where we play too much, where we're suffering here is where we place too much external emphasis on our external authority. And that what we can find here is that when we have better understanding that we've done that, we break out of the trap. And maybe we're going to see this as human beings, that we've put too much emphasis on external authority all of our lives. We're all doing it with our codependency and such like. And we're coming into a time when Pluto will be moving into Aquarius where, you know, we're going to have a divide, but we're also coming together. We're becoming whole through these events that we're having. This is what's going on with the current understanding of what's going on Earth without mentioning what's going on Earth. We all know what's going on. So let's take here and let's look at this Chiron. When is it going to move into, you know, Chiron? When is it going to move into Taurus? Because that will be a whole, this point with Chiron in the sign of Aries, what we're really doing is we're healing. So it's heal thyself first, you know, ultimately Chiron in the sign is definitely where we've got to do this inner work. It's about self first. So Chiron in Aries is basically where we have opportunities for all of us to grow in understanding of our deepest, most hidden traumas. And as we do this work, because we're all at different levels of doing this work, then we're going to basically be able to assert ourselves, because it can affect our self-assertion, thinking that, you know, that we've got no power and stuff like that. And also it's to do with eventually acceptance that we do have some, you know, control and power in our own lives and in our inner world, and that progress is possible as we take individual action. And then it will apply as we each of us take individual action to heal ourselves, and it affects the whole. It's not the whole sorting themselves out first that's going to affect us. You know, it's the other way around. So Chiron, let's see this. We're going to go, Venus. So actually Venus into the sign of, let's do that one first. Venus, days. Venus into, there you go. Venus into the sign of Gemini. And what does that mean to us here? I have Venus in the sign of Gemini. It's where we have a need for opportunities to learn. It's our sensory stimuli, you know, it's communicating our ideas and relaying knowledge. It's to do with teaching and writing. And it's also learning and applying what is learned. It's to do with grounding, speaking out and conveying our knowledge. And it's entertainment and it's fun. It's flirty. It's fun sources. You know, it's Gemini is fun, you know, and it jumps around as well. So to different things, it's duality. So a lot of bouncing around with Gemini, and Mercury is the ruler of Gemini as well. And Venus, and they will meet up as well, because in fact they won't, because Mercury is 88 days around the chart and Venus is 224 days, but that node will touch in with Venus, which is quite beautiful. The North Node and Venus are really beautiful. It's a beautiful aspect to have, but clearly it'll be doing more than that. So let's go now years, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3. This is 2024, and we've got Chiron at 21 degrees. We go 25. This is really going ahead, isn't it? So we can see it probably do a retrograde, but this is 2027, or it may have gone retrograde. It goes retrograde once a year. So Chiron will be touching into 2027. It's going to be in the sign of Taurus, but we won't go into that now. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave any comments below. And this work that we do with astrology is helping us for the unconscious to become conscious. The whole point is the unconscious to become conscious. And as we do that, we're healing. And pain is basically where we're unconscious and we're trying to make something conscious. I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.